Hello everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar. This is Angela, Company Secretarial Manager. Today, we are going to share with you about Hong Kong company formation and tax system. During our webinar, for any questions, you may drop your message on the chat box at the right-hand side. We will answer the questions in Q&A section at the end of today's webinar or share the relevant information afterward. And you can also click the live chat red button on the top to make an appointment with us for further discussion or consultation. In Hong Kong, the majority of companies are registered as companies limited by shares, and it is the most common type of entities used for small to medium-sized business or trading companies in Hong Kong. It is a separate legal entity and therefore protects the personal assets of shareholder from the business liabilities. The liabilities of the shareholders is limited to the capital originally invested. There is no nationality requirement and no need to visit Hong Kong for company setup. The company formation can be done by online submission or paper filing. So today we will introduce to you the key facts about setting up this private limited company by shares. First of all, the limited company mainly deal with two government departments, the Companies Registry, CR, and Inland Revenue Department, IRD, and the company limited by shares generally should comply with the company's audience, inland revenue audience, and business registration audience. For company name, you can design your own name and the company can be incorporated with either an English name, a Chinese name, or both. Basically, a company name is not permitted if it is identical to that of an existing company. There are also restrictions on the use of certain words in relation to government bodies or licensed activities. Every private limited company must have at least one director who is a natural person at least 18 years old, and there is no nationality requirement and no legal maximum for the number of directors. A corporate can also be appointed as corporate director of the Hong Kong company, but still, there must have at least one natural person be an individual director. The private company limited by share must have at least one member and maximum 15 members. The shareholder can be an individual or a corporate of any nationality. Meanwhile, a director and shareholder can be the same or different person. 100% local or foreign shareholding is allowed. Every limited company is required to appoint a company secretary. The company secretary must be Hong Kong residents or bodies corporate having the registered address in Hong Kong. If a company has only one director, that person cannot also act as secretary of the company. From March in 2018, service provider which providing company secretarial service must be a licensee of trust or company service providers license, which we call TCSP. If you have no experienced staff who handling the company's secretarial issue, you may look for the professional service provider. A local Hong Kong address as the registered address of the Hong Kong company must be provided to company's registry. This address must be a physical address and must not be a PO box address. The Articles of Association, AA, must be registered with the company's registry when setting up the company. AA other rules For the management of the company's internal affairs, every company's article will be different, and the company can be tailor-made its AA based on actual situation, while of course fulfill the audience in Hong Kong as well. To set a Hong Kong company, besides submit hard copies of registration documents to company's registry, which is so-called traditional way, nowadays we can register the company online as well. Delivering application for company incorporation in traditional way, it is required to submit original signed hard copies to company's registry office in Hong Kong, while to set up the company online, submission of electronic forms through company's registry's online platform will be sufficient. Application delivered in traditional way will normally be incorporated within 6 working days. Once the company is well registered, company's registry will notify when the certificates are ready for collection. The certificates of incorporation (CI) and business registration certificates (BR) have to be collected in person at the company's registry office. For Hong Kong limited companies, normally CI and BR in electronic form will be issued within 1 day after online registration is submitted. Email notification for download of the certificates will be received once incorporation is completed. Electronic company incorporation is online service provided by the company's registry to facilitate electronic submission of applications for company incorporation and business registration. Registration documents delivered to company's registry should be with appropriate digital signatures and formats. You may look for professional service provider for assistance on company online registration. Please be advised that if there is corporate member or corporate director which is not local company or non-Hong Kong company registered in Hong Kong, company incorporation is required to arrange in traditional way. For straightforward cases, Hong Kong private company limited by shares normally can be registered online in 1 day if the proposed company name does not require further consideration and approval by the company's registry, while online application for registration of a public company or a company limited by guarantee are subject to further processing by the company's registry. Every Hong Kong limited company have to file the annual return with company's registry and renew business registration certificates with Inland Revenue every year. Annual return is a report notifies CR updated information and company structure. For company limited by shares, annual return date is anniversary of the date of incorporation. It is the duty of directors to ensure annual return accurately reflects the affairs of the company as at the day of return. Whether the company structure has changed or not during the year, it is required to file annual return with latest company structure within 42 days from the anniversary date. An annual return must be signed by director or secretary of company and to be filed with company's registry with standard government fee. For any late filing, there will be government penalty imposed to the company. For business registration certificates, business operators may select for issue of the certificates that are valid for 1 year or 3 years. To renew business registration certificates, business registration fee should be paid to Inland Revenue within 30 days from anniversary dates in order to obtain the updated certificates. The business registration fee amount may be adjusted by the Hong Kong government in different financial year, and it should be renewed on time to avoid any penalty. In case the company has branch business registration, please be aware to renew the business registration certificates for branch on time as well. In Hong Kong, there are profit tax return and employees return related to every corporate. The first profit tax return will be issued to the company within 18 months after incorporation date, and it is required arrange filing annually after the financial year end. And the company should prepare audited financial statement and other supporting documents submit to IRD together. Regarding employees' return, it is for the employees report the employee's income and related to individual tax return. Whether the company have their employees or not, the employee's return should be filed with IRD. In general, employee's return will be delivered to the company by IRD on first working day on April every year, and the company should report the return within 1 month from the issue date. Here we have shared with you about summary of Hong Kong company formation and maintenance. So now we will move on to our second part of today's webinar. Here we have our Senior Audit Manager, Alan, to share about the Hong Kong tax system.
Hello everyone, I'm Alan. Today I would like to introduce Hong Kong tax system. Hong Kong tax system is simple and tax rate is low compared with most of Asian countries. There are 3 direct taxes in Hong Kong. First is profit tax, that is corporate income tax. Second is salary tax to individuals. Third is the property tax chargeable on rental income from real estate. Hong Kong adopts territorial source base of taxation. That means only business profit, employment income, and property rental income from arising in or derived from Hong Kong is taxable. Moreover, Hong Kong has no capital gains tax, no VAT and GST. Currently, Hong Kong has concluded more than 30 bilateral comprehensive tax treaties. Now, let's talk about the profit tax. The normal tax rate is 16.5% for limited companies and 15% for unincorporated business, such as partnership. From 1st April 2018, 2-tier tax rate regime was introduced. Under this regime, eligible company can reduce half of the tax rate for the first 2 million Hong Kong dollars assessable profit. That means 8.25% for limited companies and 7.5% for unincorporated business. Moreover, capital gains, dividend to shareholder, and profit source outside Hong Kong are tax exempted. On the other hand, in order to protect tax revenue, provisional tax may be charged based on current year assessable profit. Tax filing. Hong Kong companies can freely choose their accounting year-end date. For companies having year-end date between April to November, the tax filing deadline is 2nd of May of the following year. December year-end date companies have tax filing deadline on 15 August of the following year. Companies having accounting year-end date between January and March, the tax filing deadline is 15 November of the same year. The first profit tax return is issued around 18 months after the due date of incorporation, and the filing due date is 3 months from the issue date of the return. In order to complete the tax filing, the company should submit tax computation report, audited financial statements, and profits tax return. Offshore income claim. Unlike most countries, Hong Kong adopts a territorial sources principle of taxation. Only business profits, employment income, and property rental income arising in or derived from Hong Kong are subject to Hong Kong profits tax. It applies to both residents and non-residents of Hong Kong. Although the concept of locality of the source of income seems simple, in reality, its application often can be complex. No universal rule can apply to every scenario. Whether business is operated in Hong Kong and whether profits are derived from Hong Kong are determined by facts and determined on the nature of profit as well as of the transactions which give rise to such profits. Not all taxpayers' operations are relevant to determine the sources of profits. The key is focusing on the location of profit-generating activities as distinct from the incidental activities such as accounting and auditing. All Hong Kong companies have legal obligations to do tax reporting to Hong Kong Inland Revenue Department, RRD, even the companies are eligible for applying offshore income claim. Please note that offshore income claim is not automatically given by RRD. Moreover, offshore income claim is a year-by-year basis exercise. In other words, successful offshore claim in one year does not automatically guarantee offshore income claim in other years because the company may change its mode of operation. Taxpayer can submit a claim for offshore income together with its audited accounts and profits tax return to IRD. After receiving the application of offshore income claim, IRD will assess the cases and usually will raise queries regarding to the details of taxpayers' mode of operation and request taxpayers' transaction documents of some representative transactions in order to support the offshore income claim. Let's talk about employer's return. Employer has reporting obligation for all its employees irrespective whether the employee rendered service in or outside Hong Kong if their total annual income exceeds the reporting limit. The current reporting limit for single person is 132,000 Hong Kong dollars. On the other hand, income regardless of amount to married person, part-time staff, or director should be reported. The reporting period is from 1st April to 31st March of the following year. Employer must complete the return and lodge with IRD within 1 month from the issue date of the return, even if no employee was hired during the year or the business has not commenced. IRD normally issued employer's return on the first working day of April. Employer's return and all the forms IR56B must be signed by the same responsible person. For a limited company incorporated in Hong Kong, they must be signed by the employer's director, company secretary, or manager. Let's turn to the employee tax filing. Employees should report income before deducting mandatory contributions to recognized retirement schemes, MPF, received or receivable during the year. Income include income from an office, full-time or part-time employment, or pension from a former employer. Even if full or partial tax exemption is claimed for offshore nature, the gross amount should be declared. Then, employees should fill in the amount to be deducted in the return and complete the appendix to the return. Same as employer's return, the reporting period is from 1st April to 31st March of the following year. Employee must complete the return and lodge with IRD within 1 month from the issue date of the return. IRD normally issues individual tax return on the first working day of May. Employee can claim for eligible deductions such as approved charitable donations and contributions to MPF and eligible allowance such as married person's allowance and child allowance in the return. This is the end of our presentation today. We hope that the information we have shared is useful for you to understand about company setup and taxation in Hong Kong. Please feel free to contact us for any inquiry. Thank you for your time. We are Premia TNC and hope to see you again on next webinar. Bye-bye.